So we have done the rankings for Demon Souls and Dark Souls, but it is time for Dark Souls 2. And there's a lot of bosses in Dark Souls 2. This is 17, 34, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 41 bosses to rank. And a lot of bad. I don't know, I think either this or Demon Souls is going to end up as the lowest average ranking in my analysis, but we'll see. First up is the Last Giant, and we are starting off with a real banger. Boring moveset. He rips off his arm. He rips off his own arm, and it's not even cool. Now, Dark Souls 2 is the game I started with, and so my first playthrough, I was very impressed by a lot of these bosses, but then as I played the other games, I kind of saw how much better the other games are, especially with the boss quality. And so, Last Giant, I'll go D. You know, D. I mean, at least there is a fight there. Like with Moonlight Butterfly, there's not even a fight. So I'll go D. Pursuer. I like Pursuer. Pursuer is good. Not great. That thrusting hitbox is terrible, but that can be said for pretty much all the bosses in Dark Souls 2 with a thrusting attack. I'll go B. I don't think he's an A. I think you got to be a little more complex to be an A, but I think Pursuer is really good, especially for being so early in the game. It's also cool. He's got the trebuchets, or he's got the crossbows, the huge mounted crossbows, to take him out, which adds some variety to it. So that's kind of cool. Otherwise, you can fight him straight up, and it's a good fight. He follows you around. I think that kind of adds to it. That adds that unique element, which I like. I always want the bosses to stand out in some way, and he stands out in the fact that he just hunts you down relentlessly. Especially in Scholar of the First Sin, you see him like 20 times. So he's good. He's going to be a B. Dragon Rider. Ugh. Gross. Not good. I think he's going to be similar to the Last Giant, just super simple, super slow. At least you can, like, kind of like Taurus Demon, you can launch him off the arena or make him fall, but that doesn't make up for the fight. He's just kind of, you just circle strafe and hit him in the back and you win. That's it. You don't even have to dodge. You just circle strafe and hit him. Old Dragon Slayer, I'll go C. I think mechanically sound, but it's a reskin, so you're not going to get higher than a C from me for a reskin. And that's all there is to it. It's pretty easy. It's probably like a little bit more complex than these two. So it's like an average fight. Not super inspired. Not super like... It's just a boring concept, but a decent mechanical fight. I guess it's kind of cool they add the twist of like the dark magic, but that doesn't save the fight for me. Flexile Sentry. A cool concept with having like two different movesets on one boss that it can switch between. I don't like the water. The water sucks. It's already a slow game, and then having the water is just awful. If I remember correctly, the sword half is much more difficult than the club half. Just an average fight for me. Nothing offensive. Nothing great. He's just cool. Ruined Sentinels. I like Ruined Sentinels. I think it's a not bad gank fight. And there's also like the summon right outside if you need to summon. And, you know, a lot of people don't like summoning in FromSoft games. I think when you go in against a gank fight, a multi-enemy fight, I think summoning can actually be better. I think it can actually enjoy... I think it can actually increase my enjoyment with the fights. And so, Ruined Sentinels, you have that option. It also it does a good job of having the upper platform to where you can kind of break the aggro, or you can break, like, pick them off one at a time in that way. Although they do destroy it eventually. Or no, they don't destroy it, but two of them will jump up there eventually. So then you have to drop down. So I think it's well done. It's not going to get more than a C from me, because in the end it is a gank fight. There's nothing really to break aggro, and it's a lot of like baiting and running and hitting once and baiting and running and hitting once. So it's going to be a C, but it's not bad. Belfry Gargoyles is bad. Uninspired. This is the third game in a row where they send multiple gargoyles a gargoyle gank. This is the third one. And this is the first one that I think is bad. The Man-Eaters is good. The Bell Gargoyles is really good. Belfry Gargoyles is bad. I hate this fight. It's not fun. Uninspired. It's like, yeah, it's just uninspired, unoriginal, not good mechanically. Way too many. When you get, like, getting swarmed and losing to this boss does not feel fair. And then beating this boss and just hammering them before they can even spawn in, that doesn't feel fun either. There's really no rewarding or fulfilling end to this fight. So I'm going to go F. Lost Sinner. On my first playthrough of the game, I had Lost Sinner as my favorite Dark Souls 2 boss. It's kind of similar to Quelaag. As time has gone on, which is funny because of the lore implications. But it's similar to Quelaag, where it was originally my favorite and it has dropped down as I've seen more issues with it. I'm going to go B tier. I think it's a decent sword fight. I think losing the lock-on when she jumps away is annoying. And the arena isn't too bad when it's dark, and you can light it up. But that kind of feels like, I don't know. I don't know if I like that a lot. And then the stab attack is just bad hitbox, which you're going to hear 80 more times for Dark Souls 2. So I'll go Lost Sinner as a B. Skeleton Lords, F. I don't like it. If it was just the Skeleton Lords and no minions, it would be better. Maybe an E or a D. But because they explode into 100,000 minions, I hate this fight. It's just, I don't want to fight that many minions. I'm not opposed to having minions, and I'm not opposed to having a gank fight. But when it's that many minions, it's just bad. Executioner's Chariot is going to be, you know, it's very unique and it stands out, and that'll always get points from me. Dealing with the minions on the way to the gate is tedious. The boss run back is terrible. D. C. I'll give it a C just for the originality, but I think mechanically it's pretty simple and pretty bland. Yeah, that's about it. Covetous Demon. F. This boss is terrible. It's not fun. It just sits there and you kill it. It's a pinata. And you know, it sucks because there is a cool, unique quality to it. And it's that if you shoot down the prisoners, he'll go and eat the prisoners, and then you have free damage. Or if you get eaten yourself, he will unequip all of your gear. And then that adds like a interesting, unique component mechanic to the fight. The thing is, while I do appreciate uniqueness, unique interactions, or unique mechanics, the boss is so easy that those unique mechanics don't get to shine. They don't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything that shooting down a prisoner gives you free damage because the boss is inherently free damage. It doesn't mean anything that getting hit by this attack causes you to unequip your gear because you'll never get hit by that attack. So it's gonna be an F, not an F minus. It'll be an F. Myth of the Baneful Queen. It's a decent fight. I don't like the poison. I think, and the fact that like to get rid of the poison you have to burn the windmill, which is made of metal. I don't like that. And if you go in with the poison, then it feels kind of unfair, like you're too cramped. I'll go probably another C for Mytha. Yeah, I'll go C. Royal Rat Vanguard, F minus. It's a bunch of regular enemies, and one has a mohawk, and that's the boss. And not only is it regular enemies, they're the worst enemies. They're a bunch of rats. It's like, if you're gonna make a boss be a collection of enemies, regular enemies, I already don't like that. But at least make them tough enemies, not just a bunch of like stupid rats. So this boss, there's nothing good about it. I don't like it. The Rotten, I'm gonna go D tier. Mechanically stupid simple, but it is a cool arena with all the tar pits on fire and stuff. That's kind of cool. Cool design. It is one of the 4 like Lord Souls, 4 great ones or whatever. I'll go D. Scorpionus Najka, I'll go B, above average. I think it's similar to, even though it is a ripoff of Quelaag, I think it is similar in quality. I think it's a good boss. I think it's got some cool, unique mechanics. It has the cool backstory with Maneater Tark. It has the underground and pop up, which you can easily avoid if you learn. It's got some sorceries. It's got some melee. I think it's enough to stay interested, and a cool visual design. I like it. Royal Rat Authority. This is Sif with no sword, but with toxic minions. And I hate toxic, and I hate it in a boss fight. And I don't like this boss. It's gonna be an F. And I more remember the minions than I do the real boss. So that tells you all you need to know. Prowling Magus and Congregation, F minus. Stupid boss. Similar to Royal Rat Vanguard. It's just a bunch of regular enemies, and they're not good. And I don't like it. And it's like a bunch of enemies that do range attacks, and then you gotta like, yeah, I don't know. It's not a good boss. They have like the cover in the back with like the benches where you can like get cover for the lightning spears. But really, the most effective way to handle this boss is to just mash R1, and that's it. So, Duke's Dear Freya. I like the Duke's Dear Freya. It's kind of cool with the having the minions, but you can easily just avoid them by having a torch out. That's kind of cool. It's got 2 heads, so you can't just like butt poke it and circle strafe it indefinitely. Oh, also you have the build up because it creeps over the ledge on the way into Tesseldora or Seldora, and you kind of get like the build up in that way. It is one of the 4 great ones. I'll go B tier for Duke's Dear Freya. Smelter Demon Red. Okay, this is the first truly really good boss. It sucks it has a terrible run back, but I'm gonna go A tier. The timing is really good. The sword swings are satisfying to dodge. It's one of the first bosses with a phase 2 in the franchise, because halfway through he buffs up with his fire, and so I think Smelter Demon's gonna get an A from me. If you would argue S, I'm not gonna be mad at it, but it doesn't really mean anything to the plot, to the narrative of the game. It's just a really mechanically sound enemy with some okay lore. Although, if I remember correctly, lore-wise, this is like one of the most powerful bosses. I don't remember why, but it's a good boss. Old Iron King. Fantastic visual design. Fantastic aesthetic in the arena. Very simple moveset. It's like a ceaseless discharge type of moveset. I don't like in any game when the only way to attack a boss is because the boss attacks and just stays still and then lets you attack it. I don't like when a boss lets you hit it. That breaks the immersion for me. The moveset is very, very simple and bland. The arena is at least cool looking. He's super cool looking. But then the real boss is the arena because it has a hole in the back, which I've fallen through so many times. So I think it's similar to these very mechanically simple bosses, but with a bad arena and with less immersion. I'm going to go E tier for Old Iron King. I know it's one of the 4 great ones, but that doesn't save it for me. Is that all the great ones? That's Freya, yeah, Sinner, Rotten, and Old Iron King. Okay. Twin Dragon Riders. F-. It takes a boss that's already not good and gives you 2 of them. And then one of them has a bow and arrow. And that's really all there is to it. It's just not fun. You go and die. Like, again, it's like when trying to rate the quality of a bad boss, I think to myself, is dying to this boss, does it feel fair? Or kind of thrilling? No. Does killing this boss feel rewarding? No. Like a big accomplishment? No. That's where the Twin Dragon Riders are, where there's just not much good about it. So I'm gonna go F-. Actually, I'm gonna do that for Belfry Gargoyles too. Get down there. Because it's a reskin. Looking Glass Knight, A tier. Love Looking Glass Knight. The visual design is awesome. The arena is awesome. The thunderstorm in the background is fantastic. The moveset is good. He's got some good like big slams with the lightning. That's pretty cool. And then of course, the unique mechanic of summoning a NPC or a real player. That is awesome. The reason he's not S, he's just a little slow. But that's just Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 is slow. It's a slow game. If he was faster, if you put Looking Glass Knight in Dark Souls 1, that's probably an S tier. But he's just too slow. I can't put him on the same level as Gwyn and ONS. So Looking Glass Knight is really fun. I love this boss. And you know, some people would complain maybe about the fact that you have to go up against a real player or an NPC and the boss. I think it's balanced out by the fact that the actual attack of summoning, the actual move of summoning the boss the NPC through the mirror takes so long that you can punish it and get a ton of damage. So I'm gonna go A tier. Demon of Song, E. The foreskin boss, I mean, again, it's like the balance of offense to defense is off here. You can dodge a bunch of moves and then he covers up and then you don't get to punish, and that doesn't feel rewarding at all. I think the visual design's really cool. I think when you kill him, he stops singing, right? And that affects the Shrine of Amana level. But it's just going to be an E. Honestly, it might be an F. Because I don't really like... some of those sweeps are just awkward and the grab hitbox is bad. I'm going to go F. Velstadt, A tier. Low A tier, but A tier. The visual design is awesome. The lore is okay. But the visual design is awesome. The moveset is awesome. And he's like very unique with like the holy magic that's been corrupted and now he's dark. Super cool. Fun to fight. He's just a little slow. He's like a low A tier. But I think he's definitively better than Lost Sinner and Pursuer. So I'm going to go A tier. Vendrick. Bad. Bad boss. The lore is excellent. But, you know, I really don't like unoriginality. I don't like when you don't stand out. And with Vendrick, he doesn't stand out because he copies the trope from Gwyn of like this all-powerful being who is a husk of their former self. And he's like the all-powerful being whose actions set up the whole plot of the game, who's a husk of his former self. He's like copy and paste of Gwyn without any of the charm and with a terrible, terrible fight. It's not fun. And then you got to go find the giant souls. Ugh. Again, it's like, I want exploration to be rewarded and non-exploration to just be the baseline fight, not non-exploration to be a punishment, and then through good exploration you get the baseline fight. You should get the baseline fight no matter what, and then the exploration should add to it, not a lack of exploration subtract. So I'm gonna go F tier. Guardian Dragon, I'll go E. It's visually very impressive, but he flies away a lot. And then when you get up close to him, all he does is stomp. And that's really all there is to it. But at least he's visually very impressive. So E tier. Kind of similar to Old Iron King. Kind of similar to Old Iron King. Bad moveset, bad mechanics, visually impressive. So they go in the same tier. Ancient Dragon. F. I mean, he's more visually impressive than Guardian Dragon, but worse mechanically. And he also one-shots you if you get hit. But if you don't get hit, it's an ankle-biting simulator, and I hate those. So I'm going to go F tier. At least, the arena is beautiful. And you can talk to him and, like, get shops or buy items from him and enter his covenant. That kind of adds uniqueness to it. But the mechanics are so bad. The mechanics are F-. But some of the intangibles, I'll bump them up to an F. Giant Lord, I don't know how I can have him in a different tier than the Last Giant, considering he is the Last Giant, and he's about as fun as the Last Giant. Yeah, you go into the giant memory, that's kind of cool. He's also the best farming, the soul farming, but I'm going to go D tier. Dark Lurker, A tier. Finally, they get a spell-casting, duplicating, self-cloning boss right. He mixes it up with long range and short range, fire and dark, the melee swings and like the blasts, and then he splits halfway through, but it doesn't feel super unfair. Dark Lurker's really great. Terrible run back, but it is what it is. I'm gonna go A tier. I like Dark Lurker. Throne Watcher, Throne Defender. I think if they just had Throne Watcher, who is the woman, the white, I think it'd be better and just gave her a more complex moveset. But because they have the two, it's like a lot of baiting out the Watcher and then running away and hitting her once, baiting. It's pretty tedious. I'm gonna go E tier. At least it's like, and it's also the beginning of a triple back to back to back. You fight 4 bosses in a row, if you include this, because it's a double boss. Yeah, it's kind of tedious. I wish they would have just given the Throne Watcher more moves, and then it'd be more complex. It also sucks because naturally in a double boss fight, in a multi-enemy fight, the optimal strategy, especially like in this case where one is faster than the other, the optimal strategy is to kill one and then kill the other. But you are punished for doing that in this fight because when one goes down, the other one can heal it. And so you want to kill them both at the same time, but that's just not natural. So I'm going to go E tier. Nashandra, I'm going to go E tier as well. Terrible final boss, just not good. She just stands there and you hit her and she dies. And the curse mechanic in Dark Souls 2 is not scary. My first playthrough, I did a faith strength build, and so I just destroyed her. But she's not much better on any other build either. E tier it is. Aldia, I'm going to go F tier. He's a sack of potatoes. He's like Covetous Demon. They're built the same. They're equally as engaging. He's got amazing lore. So I'll go E. But I think all 3 of the final bosses, I'm going to go E tier. Gank Squad, F. Easy F. Probably the worst boss in the game. It's just a bunch of NPCs, and they're all cool NPCs. They would all be good invaders if they were alone. But the fact that you have to go through like one of the worst runbacks and then get to this gank and then like run around the arena and then hit the archer once and then run around and hit the archer again and run around, unless you're like really good at parrying, maybe it's a little easier. I never really parried in Dark Souls 2. This fight's garbage. Alana Squalid Queen. It's like what Nashandra should have been. I'm gonna go C tier. She's a good fight. Maybe B tier. She's a good fight. She, like when you get her alone, when it's just you and her, it's decent. Like her moveset is enough to keep me occupied and engaged. And then she summons some skeletons, or she summoned Velstadt. I think it's a decent fight. Sin, the Slumbering Dragon. I'm gonna go A tier. Sin is really good. If it wasn't for Midir, it'd be maybe an S. But I think Sin is really good. He flies a little bit too much for my liking, but I don't think it's that bad. He just flies a tiny bit too much. I mean, he's a dragon, right? So they have to fly. Otherwise, that's lame. The poison concept is really cool. I think the moveset is fun, and I think it just feels epic. Feels like an epic dragon fight. So I'm gonna go A tier. Smelter Demon, blue. I don't like this fight. I'll go E tier. My biggest problem with this fight is that it's a reskin. And because it's a reskin, you are expecting it to be similar to the original. But then they change up the timings and they delay the attacks. And this is when they first started to experiment with attack delays. And it's okay. Like, I'm not inherently against delayed attacks. I think they can be awkward, and sometimes when you add too many of them, they can break the engagement. I think when you add too many of them, they can break the engagement and break the immersion, but they're not that bad inherently. The problem with putting them on a reskin is that my muscle memory is expecting the timing of the regular Smelter Demon, especially because the regular Smelter Demon is pretty tough, so you're probably going to fight him many times, really learn his moveset, and learn those timings, and then it like switches up on your brain. And so I really don't like that. But I think if it wasn't a Smelter Demon, if they just gave it a different name and a different model and mesh, it'd be a much better fight. It would be like a C or a B tier, or an A tier. Probably not an A tier, but that's how I feel about that. Fume Knight, S tier. Fume Knight is fantastic. Not an S plus, but there is the cool unique interaction with the helmet. If you wear the helmet of his friend, he goes straight into phase 2. There's the cool exploration part where you destroy his healing if you do proper exploration, although it kind of is required, so it's kind of a punishment. It borders on bad, on unfair, but I think it works. There's also no boss run back, which is crazy for Dark Souls 2, because the Dark Souls 2 boss run backs are hell. So I'm gonna go Fume Knight S tier. Just a fantastic swords fight, very similar to Artorias in terms of like it's a very quality sword fight, and I just love it. Suralon, terrible run back, but I think it's a great fight, and I'm gonna go S tier as well. I love but that stab though, that lunging attack is rough, just like with all the lunging attack. Can I really put you in S tier when you have that hitbox? Can I put you in the same tier as O and S and Gwyn and Artorias with that hitbox? Probably not. I'll go A tier. But other than the hitbox, he's an S tier fight. He's really good. I think before Millennia in Elden Ring, I think Suralon was the most immersive like swordsman duel in the whole series. I just never he captured the feeling of an honorable sword fight between two warriors better than any boss until Millennia, and we'll get to Millennia. And then other than Sekiro, obviously, I mean in the Dark Souls games. So I love this fight. He's got the cool interaction. If you do him hitless, he commits seppuku. He's gonna be A tier for me. If he didn't have the hitbox, he would be S tier. Ava, Very similar to Sanctuary Guardian, in my opinion. It's a DLC beast fight who's got a good move set. I found her pretty tough. She is invisible at first, and you have to like break the ice to make her not invisible. That is kind of annoying, but I think she's got a good fight. She's got good magic, good melee, good mix-ups. That's going to be B tier for me. Ludenzalen, F-. With every boss fight, I have been separating the fight from the run back. With Ludenzalen, I can't do it. You cannot separate it. And that run back is so bad, it's going to be an F-. It's such a bad run back just to get to a gank double reskin. Are you kidding me? F-. And then Burnt Ivory King. A. I'll go A tier. The reason it's not an S tier, he's a very good fight. He's got good mechanics, amazing arena, great lore. I just don't like having to fight all the minions for so long. And then there's a chance that you can fight, like when you get to the phase 2, there's a chance that he can still have a minion. And his minions are pretty tough. So I'm going to go A tier because of the minions. If it wasn't for the minions, he would probably be an S+ tier. But I really don't like that. So I'm going to go A. And that's going to be Dark Souls 2, Submit. And that's 41 bosses. Man, this game has a lot of bosses. Let's check out the results real quick. No S+ just yet, but we're going to do Dark Souls 3, and that will change. Spoiler alert, it's going to change with Dark Souls 3. We have plenty of F-. Gwyn, Artorias, Fume Knight, ONS, Alant, and Manus at the top. Yeah, still a bottom-heavy distribution. Not a lot of average. Like, you would expect kind of the C and D in a normal distribution to be high, but it's kind of low right now. I guess I have strong opinions about most of these bosses. The most common tier is F tier, unfortunately. But again, we're doing the worst games. After these 3 games, we're going to see C through S+ increase. Average quality by game, not surprised. Dark Souls, and then Demon Souls, and then Dark Souls 2. Multi-enemy, yeah, see, after Dark Souls 1, the multi-enemy rating was really high because of ONS and the gargoyles. But after Dark Souls 2, all those bad gank fights, down to an E tier. And then single enemy is at a C-. DLC bosses are right at a B, and non-DLC is at a D. Makes sense to me. DLC at a B. What DLC? Oh, because of the gank squad is bringing it down. And then humanoid bosses at a C, non-humanoid at an E. I do like humanoid bosses, so that makes sense. All right, we will see how these ratings change, and I expect them to change a lot with Dark Souls 3.